The other thing I've got to replace is this little switch here, and this little switch goes down here. Let's see if we zoom in. It's for the wiper motor. Where have you gone now? There you are. It's for the wiper motor, the park switch. It's not too bad to get at. I mean, this one was a bit difficult because it's got the air conditioning in and, well, a cat's cradle of wires. But one thing I wanted to notice was that this, I'll zoom back out again now. This is the switch I got. This is an OEM switch, which is supposed to be original equipment manufacturer. This one is a jobber one. This is aftermarket, cheap. But the thing is, they're exactly the bloody same. Look, even those little crayon marks on the side are exactly the same. And I don't know if you can focus in on this, but you see just under there it says LAP. Both of them say LAP. Now I put a little black mark on there so I knew which was which, because I'd easily get mixed up. But it just goes to show you sometimes, what they do is they just put jobber stuff. Who makes this stuff? Oh, obviously made in China, probably. But I'm going to check that out later, and I'll put a little note down here to say where these two are made, because I think they're absolutely identical. Absolutely identical. Anyway, I'll show you how to fit one. It's quite straightforward, but I might get in the way of the camera a little bit, so let me see. First of all, undo the plug, and then sort of pull it out like that, and it's got a little clip on the back that hooks in. But most importantly, you've got to get these 3 wires back on the right way around. If you recall, in a video I did last week, we had a problem with a wiper motor. For some reason it doesn't park, the intermittent doesn't work. We've tried different relays and it didn't work, and I was spending an awful lot of time on it, and I didn't know whether it was a problem with the motor or the relay. The wiring was okay, I'm sure the wiring was okay, there was only 5 wires in it. The problem was, how much time do you spend on a job? There could be a defective motor, there could be something a little bit wrong with it, it's not parking right, it's not doing something, because it was clicking. I'll try and put a link in and you can hear it working, and it was clicking and it wasn't quite right. I tried different park switches on it, which is the reason why I did the video, and it still wouldn't work. So I've had to bite the bullet and buy another motor. And the reason is that I could spend more time on diagnosing than it would be to put another motor on. Now, for you guys in Europe and England, wherever you can get your parts from, well, it's not too bad because you can get substitute parts, but we can't. So this is the only option is to get a new one. And this is an aftermarket one, no marks on it. So we're going to open it up and have a look inside. So what do we find when we look inside? What did I tell you? There's no gear wheel in there. The reason for that is that I've just found something out that's interesting. I've got to show you this. The reason for that is there's different types of gear for different drives. So this motor would actually fit onto a TD5 Puma as well as a Defender 110, the early 300 TDIs, 200 TDIs. So you've got to get the corresponding gear. So what I did as well is I bought a brand new drive, and that comes with clips and washers, spacers and things like this, and it's all complete. It's already, look at that, it's already rusty. I've only just opened the packet. So I'm going to assemble this. We're going to go through it and show you how to assemble it, and then we can work it out. But one of the things I wanted to say, and this is always the price you have to pay with aftermarket parts. Oh, apart from that bit falling out. I just pressed the little button in here. This is the button for the park motor, park switch. I mentioned this, we had a problem with it this week. I've just pushed it in and it won't come out. The damn thing's stuck in. Well, that's not filling me full of confidence. No, it's jammed in solid. Oh, wait a minute, it's moving now a bit. Is it because it's dry? Dear me. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll put some lube on it and we'll come back to it. So I've just changed the switch over. I noticed too that the colours are following the standard pattern. I did a little picture again. In the other one there's a different types of motor kicking about. So I've noticed something too. You can sort of change these switches from without taking the motor off or taking anything apart. But I found out that these little clips here, like this one here, you can see that one there, it just fell out. So I thought it's actually better if you get a pair of pliers inside and pull that all together rather than trying to hook it on and push it, you know, like hook it on and push it in. It's difficult to describe, but honestly, take the motor off if you're going to replace a switch, because if you break it, well, it's no good. So I'm going to assemble this and make a few notes, just to say that there's a worm here, and there's the wheel, but there's a little adjuster on here. Don't touch that. That's set for the end float of the motor, so you don't really have to play around with that too much. The rest of it's pretty standard. I probably won't be using this part, but because I'm going to show you how to swap the motors over. Sorry, I'm a bit strange in my description this morning because it is 7:30 in the morning. So I'm going to put this together, and then we should be ready to fit the motor. This is why I don't really like retailing parts, because you never know what you're going to get. If you can remember in the other video, I had two switches and I marked one with a little black mark on the end to say that this was a genuine one, and the other one in the box that was supposed to be made in China, or supposed to be made in the UK, was supposed to be a cheap aftermarket one made in China. Well, I just ordered a replacement one, and this is what I got. Completely different. It's not marked LAP like the other one. It's a completely different plastic. Now that I can understand. You see, it looks different, but when the other two were identical, it's a problem. So these seem to be working fine. I'm going to test them with a multimeter. I can't see any reason why. But this one here, well, this is an unmarked one. But that, I put some oil on it, and it's a little bit better, but I think I'll change it. You know, yeah, no, it's stuck in again, so I'm going to change it. So what I've done is I've got the motor. I'm going to put the drive gear in. I've taken off the crank arm. Because we don't need it yet, and we've got to take it off to attach it to the rack for the wipers. Now, when you get this kit, it comes with a series of washers, which we call this is like a wave washer. It's like a spring washer, and two flat washers. Now, I'm not really sure, because I've got this feeling that these parts have come from different manufacturers, so they put different amounts of washers in, so you can shim them together to make it fit tight. So I'm going to put some grease on here. I've already tried to assemble it once, but I'm going to put some grease on the back side, just to save it, that's all. Now, one thing you've got to watch for when you put this together, you can actually push this metal piece out like this, look, you see, and you'll lose your timing. So it's really important to get that back in there when you push this in. Now I've just put a simple wave washer at the back of that, and hopefully this will work. I think this will be the right way around. So it doesn't matter exactly where it goes on. So then what we're going to do is find a block. I think this is too big here. Oh, that's too big. Just wait a minute, let me put this in a vise. So what I've done is I put a screwdriver in the vise to push against this piece here, so that when I push the circlip on, it's going to take up that spring, that little spring washer. We're going to compress it a little bit. So we're going to put one of those little selective shims on the top. Then we're going to get the little circlip. Open the clip up, and we're going to push it down till it goes on. Is it on? It looks to be on. Let's get a pair of pliers and just nip it a little bit. Well, it seems to be on. Well, it isn't on. Just, that's what I'm saying, these things are difficult to check, and generally speaking, with the circlip, you can see here the gap between the two. If a circlip isn't on right, that gap will be quite wide, and that's what was happening here. It wasn't wide enough, so it's not actually going into the groove, which is a real problem. I'm going to fit it on again, and I'm going to try something else by tapping it down. I'm going to tap it down with a socket. That's got him. That's better. So oh, that's come off. Well, look at that. I'm just going to give up with this bloody job. I tapped it down with the socket, the bloody end came off. What's that? Look how shonky that is. Oh, that's terrible. That's really bad. Fortunately, I've never seen anything so bad in all my days. What I'm going to do is I've got to rescue this job somehow. I can't just send it back. What I'm going to do is, fortunately, I rescued all the other bits off the other motor that were usable. I'm going to fit those in. What a job. So I put the old Lucas one back on, the 115 degree. Fits nicely square, like the height of this wheel is right in the middle of the worm, so that's good. I didn't have to mess about using shims, I just used the originals, and the clip you just pushed on with your fingers. So what is it with all this used stuff now? Well, I don't know. Well, not used, but this aftermarket stuff. I really don't know. It's just, I mean, the thing was that there was nothing else available from my suppliers. There was nothing that was, you know, like no alternatives. Well, not unless you want to go to Land Rover and pay like $500 for a motor. But yeah, so there we go, cheap welding. Look at that. It just it wasn't. It's hardly ever spot welded on. Look, it's supposed to be welded onto there. I mean, that's just tapping the clip on. What's it going to be like when it's driving? Useless. So that's that back together. So all we've had to do is change off the gear wheel and change the switch, because that's, look at this. It's working now. Now it's out of the part. It's working. Ah, okay. I just give up sometimes. So anyway, we'll go out later and we'll fit this. But there's something else I want to show you first. Whenever you get a problem like I'm having with this 110 in the shop with a wiper motor problem, there's something bizarre. I've fitted this relay. This is an OEM. Where is it now? There you go. It's a Hella relay, probably in all sorts of vehicles. But it's not right. It still won't switch off. I can't understand it. So sometimes when you have a problem, you can eliminate it by substituting it with something that you know that works quite well. So what I'm doing is I'm sat in my Land Rover at the moment, my personal truck, and I'm going to just do the wipers. Let's see if you see, and that works. And let's see if it parks. A bit dry the screen. Well, that works. Let's see if the timer works. You can hear it click, listen. So I think we're satisfied that this relay works. So I'm going to substitute it for this one and make sure this one's working. So I'll put another relay in, and just to prove it, here's the other one. This is a cheap aftermarket one. So let's try the windows again. There you go. Stop. Let's try it on intermittent. We'll see if you can hear that relay clicking. There she goes, look. So we know the relay is working. So why isn't the motor stopping? Let's go in the shop and have a look. So I think I've got to the bottom of this problem. It's taken a while, but the motor's fine, that's running. The relay is working because we've just tried it on my Land Rover and that was fine. So I think the problem is the motor is not switching off on this little pin here. Here's the cam, this piece here. It's not hitting the switch, because if I operate that switch manually, let me see where the wipers are now. So that's in the off position, right? The motor should start. Believe me, it will. Why does it start? Because the cam is not hitting the pin to switch the motor off. Alright? So that's what you can see. I'm just pushing it very lightly and the switch is working. Now, let's push this in so the motor's off. So it's working now as it should do. Let's press the wipers for a wash wipe. See, it's going through the motions. That would be its 5 sweeps, and then it stops. Watch. Same as the intermittent. See, the intermittent, if I take my finger off the button now, it's programmed and it should stop as soon as I hit the button. So every time it goes over a cam, see? That was the timer working. It's hard to explain. Hard to explain that one, but if it works on the wiper like that, on the wash wipe, everything else is going to work out fine. Everything's going to be alright, like Bob Marley said. So we've got to work out now why that button isn't pressing down. This is a problem, because this here is the original Lucas cam or wheel or whatever you want to call it, and I'm just looking at that now. I'm just wondering if that switch, that pin is either long enough or it's hitting the cam in the right place. I'm going to take this across to the bench and we're going to do some measuring up. Just ignore me bodywork stuff. It's not bodybuilding stuff, it's bodywork stuff. even when I got back to the bench, I worked out what it was. See, I'd changed this switch, but you can see there's a gap here. The switch is sticking out like this. Now, the funniest thing is, the clip's in its right place. So are these switches not quite right? Maybe I can get away with this. But you can see sort of now on close-up, although the switch is working, it's not hitting the cam. So let me correct that. Well. All I had to do was just shave a little bit off the switch, a little tiny bit, and now it's gone in square. You see, it's set down flat. So I think it was probably my mistake. I never noticed it when I put it all back together. So hopefully that will fit now, because that's a genuine switch in there. Perhaps that's a good idea to fit these switches and test them before you put the motors in. So I'm going to assemble this together, and then let's see if it works again. I'm sure it will this time. This now is getting most frustrating. You can see it's trying to stop. That's on second speed, first speed, stop. It's just to say trying, look. Man, that's frustrating. It's just like it needs to go back just that bit more into the housing so the cam will work. The old motor was clicking and carrying on, so I'm not bothered about that. I think there's something wrong with that motor. But I don't know, maybe I should just shave a little bit off the body, off where the shaft goes through, so that would go further in to hit that switch, because it's almost there. But first of all, I'm going to do some measurements. I was excited about putting that switch in. I thought that was it, but it just won't work. Right, back to the bench. I didn't even get back to the bench, because then it started working. I noticed the switch now it's come off that little holder. The switch is loose-ish. Oh, come out of the plug now. So now I've got it on intermittent. Working fine. Look at that. Switch it to off. Perfect. Sticking switch. What could it be? That's on first speed, second speed. So there's nothing wrong with the motor. So that's a mystery. So what I'm thinking about doing, this motor, this switch here wanders around like nobody's business. Well, you can see it here, look, you see there, look? It's all loose. It can move in a myriad of places. But I'm just wondering whether it's going to come off. Anyway, that's again what I usually say, back to the bench. So this time, I've changed another switch, and it's a lot tighter. I'm just wondering if that other switch that I put on had a weak clip, and it wasn't pulling this down, because that's nice and tight there. So let's try it again. This is all real time. Oh, now the bloody pins won't. Now the plug won't line up. See what that's like? Oh, bloody hell, what a day. We can go back to bed. What the heck's going on here? Put that one. There we go. That's all it wanted. Right, so let's put the bungee strap around. Hopefully this is going to work first time. put it on intermittent. That motor's got quite a lot of torque. Now has it stopped? Oh, what a bloody load of crap. Fuse has blown. Sounds like the fuse has gone. There's no power to the wiper now, look. What a carry on. It wasn't the fuse that had gone. The switch had, the plug had jumped out of here, well, with a torque. Probably you saw it and I couldn't see it. I think what I'll do is I'll put a little tie wrap and pull that plug in. It's like a compromise of everything really. It sort of is working, but is it going to be reliable? See, that's on intermittent now and that's working fine. But there again, it's hanging off a bungee strap and the cord's a bit stretched, so maybe once I get it in its proper place and sort of almost rigid to that to bulkhead, then we'll have some success. I think it's alright now. See, look. See, it's the wires coming. Well, you don't have to touch it much. Wait a minute, let's put it onto intermittent. Yeah, look at that, eh? Or was that the timer? Ooh. Sometimes you don't want to touch it. I'll tell you what, let's put it on first speed. Now you see they're not working. Hey, you see, you just have to touch it. There. It's here, look. I wonder if that bungee cord's pushing it off. I'll try another switch. Take 15. So, here is a genuine switch. LAP switch. Here is the wiper motor. And this is the slot that this pin here goes through. It's turning into be quite of an epic really. And if you remember in an early video it was sticking out a little bit. Well, I had to trim it down because I thought it was the switch. But anyway, look at this. I'll zero my gauge in, my caliper. Can you read that? Let's get it square. 6.5. Pin 6.67. So the slot's too small. The slot's too small for the bloody switch. Well, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get the Dremel out and I'm just going to open that. So I'm going to put the better quality switch in with the Chinese motor, sort of like a hybrid thing. God help us. And then they make electric cars. This is only a wiper motor. Dear me. So I'm going to try that, and I think that will be more reliable, because every time we were getting problems with the switches and we moved the wiper motor, there's something in this side these switches, they're not very good contacts. So hopefully we can put a genuine one on. It's got a bit dirty now because it's been on and off, and it should be a bit more reliable. So we're going to test this thoroughly before we put it back on. If you can recall, we've had a couple of problems with this. If you haven't fallen asleep already, Now this is a typical day in the life jobs that I get. So I've got I opened out the little slot for the pin to go in, and look at this, it's lovely and solid now. That's how it should be. So I've put the original type switch on with a Chinese motor, and let's see what the wash wipe does. There you go, you see it's working perfectly. Stops, boom, exactly in the right place. I want to show you something that I was trying to explain before in another video. I don't think I'm going to upload that one, but I wanted to explain when I thought it was the fuse that had gone and I thought it was a bad connection a few minutes ago. I'll show you what the problem was. Because I've had this backwards and forwards and in and out and backward, you know, on and off, I was trying to explain these connections here. You see they're a little like a Lucas connector. Well, what happens is you can actually, instead of putting the connection over the spade like that, you can actually put the connection like that. And I think that's what I'd done, and so it wasn't making a contact, and as soon as I touched it, it was making contact. So it's, you know, when you're doing jobs like this and over and over and over again, it's quite easy to make a mistake. You know, I mean, I'll be the first to admit we make mistakes, but you know, you just got to watch, if you can see that. So when your connectors come off, make sure, even though it looks as if it's on, it could be the other side, and it'll just make just a basic contact. But of course, as soon as amps and things like that are flying through it, well, it's a different story. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to box this up. This was purely a fault finding exercise. So I think we've found the fault. I'm going to put the wiper motor on this afternoon, and then we can box it all back up again. Hurrah! And everything should be all right. Like I say, Bob Marley. So great, I'll report back. So I've got the wiper motor just sort of rigged in for now, because we still haven't finished. We're going to turn the wipers on, well, the ignition's on anyway, press the wash wipe, and if you can see there, see the wipers are working now, but look where it parks. Let's do it again. Parks in the wrong place, parks in the for a right-hand drive. So what you've simply got to do is this. We didn't know which way round it was. You see earlier that this bit broke off. Well, it's easy to explain now. You see there's two drive lugs on this piece of plastic, and it fits like this. What we've got to do is take it all to bits again and turn it round simply like that, and that's all there is. So we're going to do that now, and then hopefully we can box this up. So there we are. You can see where the park position is now. I wanted to show you that before we started. So all I've got to do is take the little horseshoe clip off the back, the little C clip, push it through, turn this 180 degrees, we'll be sorted, then we'll build it back up together again. Easy. So I've moved the wheel around 180 degrees, and now we're going to check the wipers again. Look at that, sweet as a nut, eh? God. Hey, I've only been on this since 7:30 this morning. What's it now? 3 o'clock. Unbelievable. Messing about. Anyway, one last thing I've got to do. So that's all boxed up, the motor's quiet, there's no ticking, there's no noises. Somebody's been playing around with this before, and there's supposed to be a little rubber pad goes behind the motor. As you can see, it's all loose. So I'm going to find one of those, shove it in, box it in, then we can box the whole dash back up. Now naturally you're wondering, you know, what am I going to do next? Well, I'll tell you something, I'm going to go and have a beer, because I'm supposed to do these injectors. Not these injectors, these glow plugs. I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm fed up with this now. Talk to you later. Bye now.